What is something a man did for you that made you realize that you've been accepting way too little from men? Like your standards are possible, and in that moment you clicked that you were never asking for too much, you were just being given too little.
I've been trying to film this video and it's so shaky and I keep crying. So I've tried to compose myself and here we are. So I realized that I was expecting too little from my past relationships when I met my now husband. Um, to preface this story, both of my older sisters passed away. No, definitely gonna cry again. And all of my relationships after they had passed had not really like acknowledged them. It was kind of like, I'm so sorry for your loss, but like now you're an only child and that's it. So when I met my husband, we weren't even engaged yet. We like kind of were still newly dating. And he was like, I have a paint night at my work. Would you want to come with me? And I was like, oh my God, yeah, like that would be really fun. So we were at the paint night and we were trying to figure out what to paint. And he just looked me dead in the eyes and he was like, why don't we paint something for the girls, which is my sisters. He calls them the girls. Um, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, like, what do you want to paint? He was like, well, why don't we paint Breathe Easy? Um, which is like they had cystic fibrosis and that's like the slogan for CF. And I was like, my heart just like, I was like, oh, I'm marrying this man. Like, that's it. And so we did. And I'll insert a picture at the end. But ever since, he has talked about my sisters like he knew them. Like literally was best friends with them. I will tell him a story and he'll be like, oh, Ash was so annoying, or like just like Lindsay was so funny. Just constantly brings them up, constantly talks about them like I never that they're still here. And that's when I realized like someone that loves you will care about the things that you care about just as much as you care about them. So just remember that.
Any chance I get to brag about my man, I'm gonna do it. I just want to share some things that he has done because, like, I have been dragged, like, physically dragged through the mud by my exes, and now I have, like, the most perfect man in the world. So, for my birthday this year, we both went to Paris and Venice, but we were, like, in Venice on my actual birthday. So, me and him are chilling at the bar. He leaves for a couple of minutes, and I'm like, like, what's going on? It Sorry, he comes back with a professional opera singer who comes over and sings me happy birthday in front of everybody. And then this huge crowd of Italians just joins in and sings happy birthday for me. A professional opera singer from Italy. I was flabbergasted, to say the least. So I do have a dog here who has really bad attachment issues. If I ever go out for a girls' night, he usually hangs out with his mom or something like that. And he'll always basically text me and check on what time I'm getting home to make sure that he comes home with enough time to hang out with Dee's before he gets really sad and lonely. I am a little prepared to get some for this one because I know it can come across a little like but yeah, basically every nigga I've ever dated, he either didn't drive because he didn't have a car or his car would constantly break down. So I've been driving pretty much every guy I've dated for the past like 4 years of my life. So when I started dating him, he had a really like old beater car. And I just told him straight up, like, I'm not doing this again. Like, no, get a better car or I'm not going to be here. Literally a week later, he's telling me that like he just really wants to see me in his passenger seat. He wants to know what that looks like with me sitting on the right side of him. And then he pulls up in a brand new Alfa Romeo and says that he hopes I like it because it's his new car. Whenever I'm going through something, I really need space, and he gives it to me immediately. But like randomly, he'll tell me to come outside, and then he'll just like drop off some weed for me and then go home, and I won't see him for a couple of days. And it's just, before we started dating, like before we were even boyfriend and girlfriend, he stopped favoriting and commenting on girls' pictures without me like saying anything. And when I had asked him about it, he just was like, what is the point in me making another girl feel like I like what I see when you're the only thing that I like to see? One time he had a tattoo appointment and he wouldn't tell me what he was getting, so like, but basically he came home with my astrology sign and flower tattooed on the back of his neck. So he has like a scorpion with like a flower on top of it. It is so cute. Then when we went to South Africa for his birthday, we did get a tattoo out there because we like to get tattoos in every country we go to. So we got our regular tattoos, and then he like secretly told the dude like, can you tattoo this on me when she's not paying attention? And now he has my name tattooed on his face, like right here. So long story short, my boyfriend taught me that, it's not necessarily asking the wrong person to do stuff, because the right man's going to do it without you having to ask. Like, I think half the stories that I just said, I never even talked to my dude about it before it happened. He just did it.
So there was this exhibit that I really wanted to go to, but it was completely sold out. I mentioned to this guy very briefly that I really wanted to go, but I wasn't able to. He made a large donation to the museum so I would be able to go to the exhibit by myself after hours. He didn't show up. He didn't bother me. We never dated, never anything. He sent me a car there and back, and he told me he did it just to make me smile. And that was the day the bar went from hell to heaven. And now it's just made my life really hard.
He was upset I didn't ask for his help. When me and my husband were dating, I had trouble keeping up with a car payment. I told him nothing. I eventually had to return this vehicle, and when he found out, when I tell you this man was upset, and he didn't understand why I didn't ask him for help. He was livid, you all. Like, it just did not make sense to him how I would not think to say anything. And that's when I realized I had been accepting too much less. Like, I didn't want to ask because I was used to boo-boos who would make me feel like I was a gold digger or something and not just a girl that just needed help. And that's also when I realized my husband was the greatest man I ever met.
Okay, so my boyfriend now, this is like a couple months ago, not even a couple months ago, like the end of last year. So when somebody catches COVID at my job, and this was before like everybody was getting vaccinated, they put you out. So somebody had caught it, so they put me out of work. And the next day, I was supposed to be taking my mom and my grandma to a doctor's appointment for my grandma. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go if I can't get tested and know that I don't have it and be around my grandma who's high risk. So I was just telling him, and he was just like, okay, I'll do it. And he went and picked up my mom and my grandma and took them to the doctor's office, waited around for them to be done, took them home. And like my mom was like, oh, like he helped her in and out of the car. Didn't have to ask him to do anything, like raving reviews. I was like, okay.
So I had just moved to Virginia. I was working a job in DC and I was dating. And I was talking to this guy. I was just talking face. We were not really like dating. And I shared a story about how I never made it to prom. Got dressed, had a date, wore the similar colors, pulled up, and this guy had a panic attack out of anxiety about how many people were there in the parking lot. We never made it in. And so I was just like, man, yeah, that's just one thing I just never experienced. Months later, he brings me to a prom, or a redo of a prom. He got his tickets to the Black Ball in DC. Picked me up from my house. Had little flowers, dinner. Like, it was phenomenal. And you know, like when you're dating, you share a lot of stories and you just don't think some things stick. That stuck. You best believe I married his. Like, how you gonna give me everything that I never asked for? How? That's just one of several stories.
There are quite a few stories I could share about my now boyfriend, but I think this one is just really amazing. So we started dating right as I was moving from Chicago to Toronto. It came up on our first date. It was never a secret. And after our first date, I was actually back in Toronto for like 3 weeks or a month, I think. And when I came back to Chicago, knowing I was coming back to, pack and move my life to Toronto, I hit him up and I was like, hey, I'm back in town. Would you like to get dinner again? He was like, I'd love to. And we went on a really amazing date. And we ended up getting into what I've been calling just a whirlwind of a week. It was my last week in Chicago, and we ended up spending every single night together, sleeping over at each other's places and just hanging out, and quite honestly acting like we had been in a relationship for 2 years. It was like a really weird sensation, but really lovely at the same time. And again, this is like my week to move. I am back in Chicago to move. So I have a lot to do, and he ends up helping me with my move. Like, he is going to FedEx, getting me boxes and packing supplies. He packs up my entire kitchen. He cleans out my fridge. He helps pack up my closet. He also likes Taylor Swift. So at one point we were listening to Speak Now in my apartment, doing different tasks, just kind of like singing under our breath. And I was like, what is happening? And then the day of my move, we get up at like 7:30 in the morning. He runs to FedEx to go get me some more packing supplies. He picks me up Starbucks, helps me coordinate with the movers and just make sure everything goes smoothly. And this is all without him even being my boyfriend. And we've been on approximately 2 dates. And because no one's ever done anything like that for me, it was really confusing. I didn't really know what to make sense of it. And now that it's been several months of dating, getting to know each other, I know that that is just who he is. That is just how he shows up for me. And like I said, there are a million stories that I could give in response to this original video.
The guy that I was dating at the time, it probably was like 2 months in, and I was telling him how I was in so much pain, how my knees were hurting. Literally, sometimes my knees will just give out right from under me. And I've had boyfriends just be like, oh, that's so sad. Like, I hope you feel better. This guy, no. Came over, brought Tylenol, a heating pad, cooked me dinner, and then every single time that he was in my presence, because we dated for like 3 years, would give me a knee massage and make sure that I was okay at all times. The bar raised.
Dating post shutdown was really weird. I found myself going over to houses more than I normally would have been comfortable with because there obviously wasn't a whole lot more to do. I go over to this guy's house who I had been getting along with really well, and at this time I wasn't living in Austin. At this time I was just visiting, trying to pick out my apartment. But after our ice cream date, we go back to his place to go play cards, and I'm sitting on the couch and he asked me if I wanted something to drink. I told him, water would be fine. And I remember talking to this man about my candy preferences in passing. This was not anything important, but I love my sour straws, my strawberry sour straws. I like them cold. And so he hands me a glass of water, and then he hands me a pack of cold sour straws. Now, this wasn't the thing that made me realize I had been setting like my expectations way too low for men, but what happened next? I was supposed to be staying with a friend of mine who I had known from high school, but when I got to her place and realized that our definitions of cleanliness were very different, I wasn't super comfortable with having to spend the entire weekend there. The date ended up going really well, and then he took me home. Now, again, I had mentioned that I wasn't super comfortable with showering at this girl's place, so I was taking like baths again, pits and bits, and like that was it. He wanted to meet up the next day, and I was excited about that. I take my little bath and I go over to his place, and we end up hanging out for the entire day. I'm talking the entire day. My friend sent me a text around 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30, asking me if I was planning on coming back. And again, I wasn't excited about having to go back to her place without, again, having the ability to shower. So I let him know about what was going on, and he told me that I was more than welcome to stay there, that I could take a shower, and he would sleep on the couch. I don't like displacing people, especially people who are doing me a favor, so I told him not to even worry about it. So I take my shower, we go into the room, and I look at his bed and I realize that he is one of those people that only sleeps with the comforter and not the top sheet. And so I make a joke. I was like, oh, well, everything was cool with us. Like, you had all the cool points until I saw this. And then he asks, he's like, well, do you want me to remake the bed? Again, mind you, it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning at this point. And I'm like, no, like, seriously, you don't have to. He looks me in my face and he says, you're a guest here, and I want to make sure that you're really comfortable. So I'm going to go ahead and remake this bed. And without any more discussion, he took apart the bed and remade it with the top sheet just for me. About 2 days later, when I got back to Chicago, I got a text from him asking what my favorite thread count was. Thread count. And this might not seem important to anybody else, but the reason it was important to me was because I had been with somebody for so long who refused to sleep with the top sheet. It drove me crazy. I told him this all the time, and he just was really dismissive about me, my feelings, and my comfort. And the fact that this man and I had only been on 2 dates, and this was our first night together, and that he was prioritizing me in that moment, priceless.